Letting everyone. On the pledge, are we going to do that now or is that next? I think Dan is going to stand up and offer a public comment of the pledge of allegiance. Okay. All right. Well, we'll call the order. We receive public comments from the public. Any comments from the public? Oh, now I get it. I get it. All right, here we go. Now I get your gut about it. Everybody. Pledge allegiance. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Brenda, honor the Texas flag, and pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one, indivisible. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your public comment. I would greatly appreciate that. All right, so number 3, let's consider and act on a request for adjustments to or relief from the special charges imposed by the district.
I don't have any.
And then moving on to the consent agenda, 4, 4, 5, and 6 for review and act on the minutes of July 2024 Board of Directors meeting. Anything? Right, Chris and I were not present. Right. We'll show that. Review and act on financial reports and disbursements of July 2024. Make sure I check all of my stuff. Let's skip the consent agenda. 6, receive the tax collector's report, including updates on 2024 certified totals and adjustment rolls.
Those are under consent agenda.
Those are all consent, and we take them all. Unless you want to pull one out.
No, yeah, I know we normally do consent all at once. Last time, I was just being double, spell like before, it was okay if we just went through them, but, I'll do them all at once.
Then we need to pull them out of consent.
Okay. Apologize. So consent agenda, anything we need to pull out? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. All right, consent agenda approved. Moving on to regular agenda, review the district's draft fiscal year 2024-2025 operating budget and recommended water rate structure.
All righty. So in front of you, you have the budget, and then you also have the draft budget memo that kind of summarizes some of the key points in the budget. I know we've got some new directors that haven't gone through this before, so today we will not be taking any action on this. This is just for presentation. We'll vote on it next month. So this is just to do a run through. I wanted to point out at the top of the page in the yellow box, those are the proposed tax rates that we'll talk about in the next agenda item. But the tax rate proposal recommendations that you'll hear here in a minute are already inputted into this. And that kind of drives the revenue side, at least on the tax side of things. Just to kind of summarize the first page, as you recall, well, first off, last year we did a water rate study and identified water rate adjustments, water and sewer rate adjustments, which went into effect this year. That was, I think the last time we had looked at it was many years, about 8 or 9 years. We're not proposing any water or sewer rate adjustments this year. This includes the wholesale water rate from Estrade reducing, which you approved last month, and then the sewer rate staying the same as you approved, and then the GRP reducing that amount. So all of those that you had heard from Estrade the last couple of months, those are all inputted into here on the revenue side. There's not much really to report on the front side. Most folks want to look at the hand piece, which is purchase services, which is essentially the things that we're doing in the field for the district. So I wanted to point out a couple things that are kind of outliers or differences. Sean, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to make a quick point, at the top of, the front, you're certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but, it looks like the tax rate is going down.
Correct.
So, by my calculations, it's 4 years in a row that we're lowering the tax rate for our, so I can say it on camera, awesome. Yeah. That's 4 years in a row, you know.
And we'll-
lowering the rate. So, you know, it's still we're gonna talk about that more, but that's a good.
Absolutely. Yeah, the district's doing well, to be able to do that. Okay, on the backside in the box, in the tan or orange box, are things or projects, maintenance, repairs, things that we do day in, day out for the district. You can see kind of how they're broken down. One of the couple things I wanted to point out. One is 5300.06. If you'll go all the way over to the blue box, that's actual on either side. On the right side is this year's budget. On the left side of it is the proposed budget. You kind of see what the budget was, what we spent, and what the budget is proposed. And so and that works throughout this whole document. So on 5300, the GL code on the left, 5300.06, that's water service maintenance. You go all the way over. The budget this year was $1,500. The budget next year is proposed 41,000. So that's a little bit different jump. And I wanted to share with you what that is. So when the Woodlands converted to the AMI ultrasonic meters back in 2022, I think it was finished anyway. They did not do the commercial meters for a couple of reasons. One, cost savings. And two, those meters were not quite being, I guess, manufactured yet on the larger diameter meters. And so this budget item includes replacing your 3 and 4 inch large old mechanical compound meters, which basically it's the meters that are on your commercial customers. And so overall you have 7 large diameter meters. This would replace 5 of them, which are the 5 that are the 3 and the 4 inch, 3 and 4 inch meters. So that's that line item. The old mechanical meters are becoming obsolete, so parts to be able to use them or repair them is becoming harder and harder to get. And this will start to get your commercial meters up to the level that all your residential meters are, which is the ultrasonic no moving parts type meters that are associated with the AMI system.
How many commercial meters think about replacing?
You have 7. This would replace 5, just the 3 and the 4 inch. So you have 2 more that are even larger diameter that we would probably propose to move into the next couple of years.
Explain to me, 7 meters have to be replaced. What's the end customer, what? When you talk about commercial, how many, you're talking about 7 meters, I'm just trying to understand who that affects or who is serviced by that. Because I would think when you talk about commercial, you're talking about hundreds of commercial entities and the Woodlands Water District. So how is it that you only have 7 of these?
In MUD 39.
Oh, just in month 39.
Yeah, this is only 39's budget.
Okay.
Well, so some, look at Costco and some strip.
Right, and there's a lot more that have smaller 1 inch, 2 inch. That's not what we're talking
Okay.
about. This is large diameter over 3 inch. So 3s, 4s, 6, 8s, 10s, 12s. And you have 7 total that are in the category of 3 inch and above.
I was thinking the Woodlands Water wide and that's our portion.
No, there's
I was-
207.
I was thinking that, that's why the 7 threw me off the
Yeah,
top,
no.
not thinking on
We're
our.
3%.
Okay.
You're tiny, yeah, no, you don't have, this is just replacing 5 of them, and then we'll likely try to budget the other 2 larger diameter next year. One district has asked to put them all in, so we're gonna look at that for them, but that's up to y'all. We were just trying to focus on the 3 and 4 inch at this point.
Other advantages when you upgrade to these new ones.
Expected better accuracy is what we've seen in all of the residential side for sure. And then, yeah, the old compound meters have basically two two pieces to them, low flow and high flow. And last year, across the whole Woodlands, we hired an outside firm to come in and essentially do an auditing of the entire system. And their sole job is to look for lost revenue. So where in the water and sewer billing side of things are we losing revenue? And it could be that we're losing revenue because there's broken meters, or they're not flowing right, or we build it wrong, an electronic issue, or I don't think of any of the others. I think 100% of them have been a faulty meter. And most of those have all been the larger diameter commercial meters where the low flow or the high flow wasn't reading correctly or off, basically. Okay. And on those old meters, compound meters, you can go in and move the parts and fix them. But that's becoming obsolete. And so this would be a move to the more technological meters that you have on the residential side. But that's
So it's compounded. Your point of failure is the larger diameter commercial meters, and there's a problem with them. They're the biggest using it, so.
That seems like it makes sense to get the biggest ones done. It's possible.
So that's that was one kind of outlier. Yep. All the other budget items are pretty, pluses or minuses around where the last budget was. We don't see any issues with that. Keep in mind, this might be water taps, this might be ditch repairs. You never know how many of those you're going to have. So what we do is kind of put together about a 5-year average, taking out COVID like a weird year, and try to best budget we can for all these little items. And that's kind of what goes into every one of these line items. The other one that I wanted to point out was storm sewer repair. That one, so we are going to be doing an audit of all of our ditches to identify where our corrugated metal piping is. So we call them backslope interceptor piping, or in storm sewers that tie into ditches. That last run of pipe is also usually CMP. So we're going to be doing an auditing across the entire Woodlands to identify where those pipes are, how many we have, how many are CMP, how many are deteriorating. Because essentially at 25 or so years, they start disintegrating. And when they disintegrate, you have sinkholes. And we had several last year and this year where we have significant sinkholes, especially when they're on the backside of a fence, backside of a neighborhood, and there's a fence, it pulls the fence down with it, and it's a mess. So we had a $140,000, $150,000 repair. Yeah, if you don't catch them and they become that big, then they become more expensive. So what we want to do is get out ahead of that. In the meantime, before I have that audit done and know where we're going to be putting all the data into our GIS mapping database, and then we'll build a capital improvement plan off of that so that in the future, we'll better be able to give you a recommendation on, how do we address, what do we have? What's the magnitude? What's the condition? How big a deal is it in terms of severity? And then we'll come with recommendations on how to tackle that, whether it's one big project. You really don't want to get into a situation where you're doing one at a time because you're losing some value there. So if you do 10 at a time, it's going to be less per, right? If you're doing it on an emergency basis, it's going to be more expensive. So I want to get out ahead of that. In the meantime, I've put one repair in each district across the Woodlands. So that's in that line item, 5,300.14, and that was a $25,000 line item, just in case. So that's in there. So that's most of the expense side of things. The other thing that we look at is that green bar at the bottom. That's an indicator of district health, both on the bond side, but also from a cash standpoint. So we would like for that number to be between 15, 16, some districts 24. But you're at 16. The projection by the end of next fiscal year, September, the one all the way to the right, that last one in green, 16.6, that puts you in fantastic shape going forward. That puts you, what that number represents is the amount of months you have in reserve of your budget. And so what we would like to have across the Woodlands is about 12 to 16, particularly in an aging infrastructure situation. You are a little different. Your infrastructure is a little newer, right? So you're in really good shape, but you also, don't have as much aging infrastructure. But you do have some things, you know, you've got some annexations, you've got some other things that you might want to tackle. Having a better cash position would allow you to buy things out of cash instead of doing bonds. So it just gives you more options for when you need either bump in the nights or, you know, maybe there's capacity things you need to deal with development or whatever. So it gives you, you're in a good spot. You're in a real good spot.
I do have a question.
Certainly.
On the miscellaneous item, the GL account, 5,318. What is comprised of that miscellaneous amount?
It's meals and your filing fees.
Okay,
That's it.
okay.
Yep.
Eric, I got a question.
Okay.
So, and just making sure I'm reading this right, you guys just basically put the forecast for the year and where appropriate, for the most part, you just divide it by 12 and just spread it across. There's certain line items on here that you know are targeted expenses, like the ditch maintenance, which is every, what, 4 or 5 months or twice.
Mowings, yeah.
The mowing and stuff,
4
that
times a
you
year.
literally hit that in the specific month that it's targeted for, correct?
We tried to do that.
Try.
Yeah, I got you. I'm just making sure I'm reading it right. And then what are these little, and if it's just an error I'm showing, what are the little percentages between the blue and there's a 3% and then the 15%. I just want to, is that just a
This
formula
year,
calculation? or-
this year's budget percent against last year's budget. So for instance, that top 3%, that's 3% increase. The 123.6 is 3% higher than 119. The one on the other side of the blue.
Okay,
Percent of last year's budget.
got it.
You've been doing this for about 3 years now, almost. I really like how, the green line item at the bottom, covered by available cash. That's always been true, here in this district. Preparing really sound budget. I wanted to point out, a lot of people may not know this. People recently started watching our videos more and more, which is fantastic. What was it, maybe a year ago, 9 months ago or so, we had an issue with 3 of the manhole cover areas on Donwick, and we looked at their budget. We knew we had plenty of cash. We took a load, we got it covered. It was $15,000. We didn't have to raise costs on anyone. We just put a safety in the neighborhood, we just took care of it. It was done in a week. It looks great, and we're still financially sound in cash. So I just want to everyone to thank you all for being diligent, thank you all for working hard. Because you know, all those little things that go on in the night, but you know, what do you get to grand job? Well, run a sound budget, and it's not super lean. Now it's not super bad. It's appropriate. When those things go bump, we can just say, great, we take care of them, move forward, make sure the safety of the residents, taxpayers, and make sure that we do better than we can.
Any other questions?
All right, so we'll take a vote on that next month. And now's probably a good time to talk taxes.
All right. Good afternoon. On page 18, you can see the memo. It's like this, followed by 2 tables. And for the newer board members, I'll just let you know the tax rate setting process. That process. So all you're doing today is authorizing publication of the total tax rate. Next month, you'll hold your public hearing, and then you'll adopt and levy that tax rate. You'll break out the tax rate between maintenance operations and debt service tax rates. So all that being said, if you look on the cover under assumption number 1, your certified value that's as of January 1 of this year came in at 807 million, which is a 6.24% increase over last year's right around 760 million. You can see our other assumptions below that. We assume 98% tax collections, no growth beyond that certified value. Your debt service fund balance as of June 30. We assume interest earnings of around 2%. Currently in the text class or text pool accounts, you're getting a little over 5%, but 2 years ago we were at next to nothing. So it's just kind of an average, just so you can see what the money in the account is doing for you. And so if you flip to the next page, this is your debt service cash flow. And since some of you are seeing this for the first time. I'll run through all the columns really quickly, just so you understand what's going on here. That first column, year ending, you just have to remember that you're collecting taxes in arrears, so it's gonna be 1 year off from what you're actually levying, because you collect taxes January 31 of the following year. And so the next column, the second column, is just your fund balance, your beginning fund balance as of June 30th. That next column is the interest earnings that I mentioned. We assume 2%. The next two columns are blank. The next column is your prior year AV. So that first line, the 759.9 is your 23 certified on the 24 line, because you collect those taxes in arrears. And then below that, you see 807, which is your current certified. And then we don't assume any appreciation or anything moving forward, because you're really looking at a snapshot in time. So we're looking to levy for the next year. And then we don't know what's going to happen beyond that. The next column is just showing you the 6.24% growth. Next column is the debt service tax rate necessary to pay the outstanding principal and interest. And so last year you actually levied 19.25 pennies to pay your debt service. This year, with the growth and your current debt service remaining, you only need 16 cents. And then you can see the next year 14.25 cents. And then you kind of have a shelf, we call it, in debt, where it drops off, and you only need roughly 6 cents beyond that. So you're getting to a point where you'll be able to continue to trend the tax rate down further, or if there is a need to transfer a few more pennies over to your maintenance and operations, you'll have that ability to move pennies around. The next column, tax collections, that's what you would collect in a given year. Next column would be your total funds available, which would just be your collections plus what's in the bank. The next column is your current debt service. So that's principal and interest of outstanding bonds. You have about 10.6 million outstanding. The next column, total debt service. We're not adding to that, so it's the same as your current debt service. Second to right column is your end of year fund balance every year in your debt service account. And then all the way to the right is your debt service coverage. TCEQ requires we maintain a minimum of 25% of your following year's debt service. So that's just to show you what those percentages are year over year. Then if you flip to the next page, this is informative information. We used to have it on the previous page. We've kind of blown it up just so if you guys want the numbers, it's easier to see. So I'll run through it really quickly. With respect to the top box, it's about your maintenance and operations side of your budget. So last year you levied 6.75 pennies, which generated just over $500,000. This year's proposal is 9 cents, which would generate 670,000. Parity rate, if you wanted to raise the same number of dollars you did last year, 6.35 cents. And then the M&O rate currently to balance your budget is about 5 cents. The value of a penny in your district, which is worth about $79,000. So this will give you the operating surplus that Eric just mentioned in the budget. Middle box, with respect to tax bill, the average homestead, and keep in mind these numbers in the middle box are impacted by the 20% homestead exemption that all the Woodlands districts have applied. So this takes into account that 20%. So if it seems a little low and you're going, my house is worth a lot more than that, no, that's the reason. So last year's average homestead is $251,500, meaning the average tax bill was $654 in your district. This year's average homestead, $271,851. So that means the average tax bill would be $680, or an increase of $26. So that increase from last year to this year is 8.09%. But with the penny decrease, it would be a 3.93% increase in tax bill. That ultimately is important. From the bottom box, you are considered a developing district because you still have infrastructure to build to serve the ultimate build out of your community. So you fall back on what we call the old threshold, which is that 3.93% can go up to 8%. If it goes above an 8% increase on your average tax bill, then your residents can petition for a rollback election. Now, keep in mind, that if you do go to an election and the election passes, it only impacts your maintenance and operations side of your budget. Your debt service tax rate is pledged to bonds, so outstanding principal and interest, so it can never be rolled back. And so why that's important, if you look at the bottom box, all the way at the bottom, your 2024 M&O rollback rate, if you were to pass that 8% and go to election, and it's successful, it would roll your M&O roll rate back to 6.74 cents. And you're currently proposing 9 cents. So all that being said, last year you levied 26 cents. We're recommending publishing 25 cents. And one thing I didn't mention at the beginning, when you do publish or authorize publication this month, next month, when you hold your public hearing, then actually levy, you can actually levy a lower amount. You just can't levy a higher amount without republishing. We always recommend that you publish the highest amount that you'll consider.
So the rollback, if the rollback is triggered, it goes to the prior year. M&O number.
No, it goes to, if there is a rollback election fails, then it would go to 100% of the maintenance tax revenue from last year. So that would generate this rollback rate that is 1.0674.
Okay.
So I want to just discuss the middle section, because that was a very important section. I think these people are really getting elected, talking about how we're small here to save everyone money. And there's a little bit of confusion in our neighborhood about, for example, people who've been mud bill, right? You're going to say, well, hey, our mud bill is higher than it was last year. Yes, you are being charged more dollars. If the rate is cheaper, the reason your mud bill is higher is because their home value is higher, right, from the county. So the MUD is lowering the tax rate, but the county is valuing your home at more, because you have more equity theoretically in your home. This means that your bill is higher in dollars, but the tax rate percentage is actually lower. So we're all doing a fantastic job, unfortunately, our homes need to go up in value.
No, that's an important distinction. Everyone needs to hear that.
Yeah, that's a good point. People are gonna say, hey, gone up, but you're right, it's not tax rates down, it's the.
Yeah, thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you all.
Like I said, you can relay that the difference, if you look at the increase from the 251.5 to the 271.8 is an 8.09% increase year over year. And the tax bill, the average tax bill is only going up 3.93%. So that means that you lowering the tax rate is offsetting some of what the appraisal district is.
Very much underneath.
Right.
While still maintaining
Quality of life.
good water and good infrastructure. Plans for the future. Not hamstring.
And, to tack on that, part that's being like, probably y'all ran long, but I don't know if y'all covered some of this during the budget section, but y'all are certainly going and touch on this, I'm sure, but we started going in a very good direction. Making a lot of good progress here. You're in a good shape from the tax perspective because your debt service is dropping by 3 1/4. So what's being proposed is to move 2 1/4 of that over from debt service to be able to further increase your operating. So, but you do have flexibility with your surplus that's proposed at 296,000. Each penny is 79,000. So you've got some flexibility. Wanted to consider something a bit lower than this, the recommendation is to have it be, certainly observe more, but that's really what the policy, this is you're going to a lot of liberty as to how y'all want to handle that. Either way, whether you're at 25 or a hair lower than that, you're in very good shape. And that decision doesn't paying today is, as Adam mentioned, today's decision about the rate to publish a newspaper for two step legal process. So if, you know, you want to kind of give that some thought, that's really my comments are. That's now. We can make that decision this month. Okay, you know, you want to consider 25, publishing 25, and maybe 25, great. Less than that, great. But if you publish slower, you want to go higher, and reading publishment areas, both of these or another public hearing, they can do that process. So, when in doubt, publish higher. And it's take away.
How long will we be considered, I mean, what's the criteria to shift this off of being a developing district?
It'll be a developing district for a while because of the five year. That's part of your district. Until that's developed, you're not gonna see that extra thing. Village should be developed. Yeah, now, if you didn't have the defined area, you might already be subject to the agreement, I think so. But in this case, you would have to levy a lower rate like you proposed. Because right now, your percentage change is 3.93. You only go to 3.50.
That's currently you could go to 8.0.
Right.
By law.
Right.
That's not what the proposal is, but obviously. There's no need to do that.
We'll make this decision next month.
Correct.
And then there's also opportunity for people to come.
How we have to open a public hearing, so it's if you're regular meeting, you turn the regular meeting, and open a public hearing, proceed telling public. Session. And consider the better.
Shortly, that's
Twelve,
that
25.
participation.
Right, and then they have it next week's then.
Okay.
Have it. Mhm.
Sure, that's how you know.
That's part of that. Yeah. Our most common use of this.
You know, that's yeah, for sure.
Awesome. November 9,
We'll take action to authorize publication of the rate of trouble publishing.
so I'd like to make a, I'm going to receive a motion to, I said, take action on the rate.
To authorize publication of, you want to publish in 25, then, also publication.
First and second to make motion to publicize the rate. And for your, you don't want to consent.
I'd like to motion that we publish the proposed tax rate.
Thank you. Then proceed the regular consideration once the report for the company's on operations projects.
All right, well, I don't have anything to add to the information in your packet. Starts on page 21. If you have any questions on anything, that in. No violations, nothing out of ordinary. Financials are not updated yet, so that is for the last.
I have one question. I mentioned this several times and I have a feeling it's probably just because of the heat and, but it was on, wastewater treatment facility number 3 on the flooring, we're approaching the four max level on page 23. I know that ebbs and flows throughout the year. We're going to talk extensively about it. You could measure it, you know, in a school day or a non-school day. It's completely different due to the water flowing. Anytime it gets, you know, within
couple basis points of getting that back. So I was asked about it being concerned about.
Not a 3.94, but the upcoming budget, we do have additional technology to install that should actually knock that down quite a little bit.
Okay, fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, it's just something, those things keep going, barring interest. I think for the additional technology, we have, it's to single. I think that's all I have in the last. Have to have one down, receive the financial reports.
Right in open session today.
Thank you, sir. So, 12, we're gonna consider an act on supplemental agreement with the City of River Authority and Utilities Commitment in connection with development of defined area property located on M 2978 by the Woodlands Land Development.
All right, so 12 and 13 kind of go together. They both relate to prime area property off of 2978. We are not in a position to take action on a supplemental agreement. I have visited with Dan Colbert, a development company, about their plans for purchasing capacity for that track. They've been working with the river authorities to confirm the available capacity. So that's still worked out. We're gonna have a proposal from them for their time frame to purchase that capacity. So the mechanics of it would be that development company will provide funds to the district, so that the district can turn around. That's the development company. Telling what happens. Passing calls, in their first, their own patients, district, and I think. But we're not ready for that at this point. So once we get that proposal, then we'll be able to consider something like the product capacity and then issue it. Said, okay, well, that would be paid for X amount of capacity. We're getting that the district can provide you X amount of capacity. Dan, you want to, cover out number 13 regarding the first building?
I mentioned this earlier, you got here, that, no action required today. But there are some things happening, West 2978, so I want to bring all you guys up to speed on what's going on. West 2978, we are still, this is a,
Ready?
you can pull it off, yeah.
It's gonna be bright.
Right. Wow. Gotta get it, I gotta make it a lot smaller too.
Oh, shoot.
Just how we can do that, but it's not centered. I'm gonna need help with that part of it.
Okay, how did? It's probably gonna be as good as it's gonna get.
We're cut off. All right, well, we'll see what happens.
Oh, wait a minute.
I'll tell you a little bit while we're waiting on the, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
Next slide. This is a land plan that we've worked on in the last 6 months. It is still being worked on. We are still working. Still working on, where the grocery is gonna be, where the commercial area is gonna be. Single family active, you see there, the 13 acres and 8.4 acres. Those are duplex, triplex kind of things. I don't know if that product is gonna make it here or not. A lot of discussion about what the product mix is gonna be on the residential side. The multifamily, is suspect right now. I think we're gonna end up with a flex parcel there that can end up being multifamily or can end up being single family. But it is, the market's soft. Let's just tell you how it is. There's a glut of apartments out on 2978 right now. The type of quality apartments that we'd be putting in this area may not pencil. So we'll be creating the AB with the single family instead of the apartment complex. as far as the bonds and the capital to serve that area, I don't think we're gonna see a big change. But we're still working on our land plan, but this is a version of it that, more recent than what we should have, pay attention to the far west end there, those detention ponds. We're gonna talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. There have been some changes in the county. We now have Atlas 14 to deal with, so we're going to higher runoff rates than before. In addition to that, we've had a survey done on the property, and there are some waters of the United States that we're going to be dealing with in the detention pond area as well. Not a wetland per se. These are sandy bottom creeks. They're ephemeral. They run only when it rains, but the federal government has now seen fit to claim them as property that they say grace on. So we're going to have to deal with those waters of the U.S. in the detention pond area specifically. Next slide. This is a more up-to-date land plan, gives you a more idea of what we're going to be doing on the single family side. Like I said, it's still in case and we're still studying. It's not complete. We're getting closer. Next slide. This is kind of a idea of what might get built out there. Modern farmhouses look that is highly popular right now. I don't know if you've seen it around town. We've got 2 or 3 sections of them over in the Bridgeland area, and we can't keep them on they're selling like hotcakes. That may be the architectural style we use here. That's just a rendering of what might happen. Next slide. We're trying to do what is commonly referred to as an agri-hood. So there are 2 areas here that we're going to hold aside that we're going to possibly work and deal with a company that does this for a living. And they come in and grow. This isn't a place for the residents to go grow their gardens, because we've done that several times in the past. That turned out to be not such a good idea, because the residents don't do a very good job keeping up with their garden. But this is a company that will grow a garden, and it will locally source to local restaurants. So it's a business deal. It's going to have to be discussed, but it is something that's being discussed with this product. It may add another level of amenity to this area that makes it very distinctive from other areas in the world. So I think it has real potential. It's been done a couple of times around town successfully. We're going to see if that fits the mold or not.
So is that in the single family?
That would be, I'll show you on
Okay.
a map where that would be.
Commercial thing in among.
Yes, that's right. Next slide. So you see the big brochure on the top there? That's right across 2978 from Woodlands Parkway. That's exactly where you expect it to be. We are currently in negotiations or talks. We don't have any paper exchanging hands yet, but there's a brochure that is interested in this site, and it's for a name you'll recognize, but I can't go into that at this time. Of course, you'll see the pads out front, parking field. This will be a pretty standard deal. What is a little bit different here is the restaurant cluster that we're looking at, and the retail on the small pallet to the south. I think that has some benefit. Cluster those together and have another area for restaurants to, a cluster of restaurants on one plate. Not fixed, not finished, but that's where we're headed right now. The 2 drill sites is probably where we will be using that temporarily as a farm area. So part of that will be the garden that we showed on the previous slide. Now, one day a driller could come in here and say, hey, I'm going to put a drill site in. And he has every right to do that. If that's the case, then that operation will shut down while they're drilling their well. We think the likelihood of the oil field being actually done here is extremely remote. But the fact remains that mineral right owners have rights to this property as well, and we have to set aside a drill site for them to have access to their minerals should they try to go down and get them. We also, it's not shown here, but I'll let you know, we went ahead and did a tree survey. The site was not timbered very often under Mitchell Fruiting, but it had been timbered in years and years and years. There are some massive trees there. And we are trying right now in our land planning to accommodate as many of those There's gonna be some trees that are gonna be cleared. There's gonna be a big parking field. There's gonna be all kinds of other things. But we have done a survey across the entire site. And, we are looking at where those trees are and how they can, if possible, how they can be accommodated. Large hardwoods. You know, significant old ones. Next slide. This is an idea for the commercial. This is, what might happen. I'm not saying any of this will happen, but this is a kind of our theme that we're looking at. Next slide. This is, the thing I'd like to talk to you guys about the most. Go back to the, overall area. Remember the area, that's far enough, right? That's fine right there. See where the detention ponds are? We're going to be looking at the area west of the detention pond. Okay. Okay, it's off the map, off this map, the rest of the detention ponds, in the very bottom of this, in the bottom left corner, that is Wood Trace Boulevard. That is a road that's going to be built by Montgomery County. It ties into where Nancy Police Signal is today, and that road has been cleared. And Charlie Riley had every intention of having it built. It's a win, but I know that it's on his built thing, but he's trying to accomplish that. 2978, 220, 249, 229, gonna be a while. The big railroad bridge, they have to build a couple other bridges that are associated with that road. But that's the ultimate plan is for that road to be built. They acquired the right of way for it, it's gonna happen. It's on the big fair plan. Now let's go to the slide. Charlie owns a triangle, I'm sorry, precinct 3, precinct 4, precinct 2, precinct 2, thing, has a triangle of land where that civic center is. Okay, and the area to the right of the civic center is land that we own. Okay. And of course you see where the roads are coming through the bag. Charlie has every intention of putting a civic center here. He's working on a grant for that facility at this time. He's got the grant writers on the way. We've got some preliminary design on the way. What they don't have is water and sewer. Right? That's something that they're going to do. And I mentioned to you guys earlier that we're dealing with new criteria for drainage in here in Montgomery County. So what Charlie does have is he has additional land to the north of the civic center that he is not going to use. And the detention pond that you see from the north of the civic center there, we'd like to share into the detention. So we'd like to put some of our detention down on his property. And that would save you guys worried about homeowners from several food down $1 million. If we put it to the east of where those detention ponds are shown, we're gonna take away houses. We're gonna take away a lot of AD that you guys would have had on the tax roads that have to pay your taxes out. And I haven't had it done by the end of the year, but I'm certainly estimating that house, probably $200 an acre. And that's something that's correct. It's around that AD. I find out that. So if we can make a deal with Commissioner Riley and share some detention costs with him, and in return, he gets some water and sewer capacity from 139. And I think he's gonna, I don't know if he's gonna have a kitchen there or not, but it's gonna be a small amount of family connection there, water and sewer be there. And we'll add that to the numbers that we have. I think a civic center is gonna include the entire area, speaking. So that's what we're proposing to do. We're proposing to have some detention sharing on his property and have some water and sewer sharing for a civic center. And I have to work out retail. I've got a term sheet put together. I've got an agreement that needs to be put together, but I'm calling it a tri-party agreement right now. I think it's gonna end up being an agreement between the commissioner and the developer and the MUD. But it's a win-win because everything you see there in the dark blue line, those are the waters of the United States that are continuing to gather. Those are areas that we're gonna have to avoid. So we're going to be losing some capacity in our detention pond, but making up for that capacity by sharing our detention within the civic center. One other thing I want to mention on this slide Down in the bottom right-hand corner, you see that 130? That's the number. Commissioner Riley owns another triangle of land right near the 130 here. We have the triangle of land that is not adjacent to this parcel. And what the development company is going to do is give him some of our property with the rest of the balance. Are y'all seeing what I'm sorry. I got a spill. So what's gonna happen? You got it. They're going. All right. Let me come around. I'm gonna point to the map right away. So.
Okay, that's horse trading.
Well, it is horse trading. This land right here is not going to be used, can't be, it has no purpose. But it's land that they got when they acquired the right of way of. We've got a triangle of land here that would benefit them great.
That should be okay, thank you.
So the development company is going with saying, if you'll share your attention with us, and you'll share your utilities with MUD, we'll share our property with you. And that way you can build a real life parking lot, parking area that will serve the service. And, had preliminary conversations with Charlotte, and the grant writers of ALA as well. This is the direction I think everybody wants to go and is willing to go, but it is going to take an agreement between all the parties to make all that. But I think it's one of those. I really think it's one of those mutually beneficial deals. County gets something out of it, we get something out of it, and the budget gets something out of it. So hopefully that's keep at it.
Keep clarifying that the red border is the 539.
This is your boundary, yeah, right here. And it's also a mountain. It's our.
Where's the home use?
That,
That little, that's what I was going
all the way out there.
Would it make sense that 139 annexes the rest of the way out? Or is that not a factor, not an issue, not necessarily?
I mean, you could, but there's not necessarily upside to the district because you're not adding taxable value from stuff to them.
Yeah.
So it's either the annex tax exempt property provide service that way, or you provide out of district service to a tax exempt property. I don't have an opinion on it because if you're not gaining anything like any property, controls it right now.
And it doesn't actually it's not access to the rest of the property.
It does not.
Either, so it wouldn't add any value.
Yeah, we would have to have, if it's out of, if it remained out of, separate from the county or out of district service for that.
We talked about the benefits, are there any negatives, are you implied than the maintenance that we're seeing for code sharing, different sharing areas, and everything, water rates, private supply?
The dictionary when you need to go to be small, I'm sure that we can just share that expensive well. As you have to share your expensive the water and some line to get down to serve them. Yeah, it might make sense in the district, and everything is right now. You put your lift station down there somewhere next to that parking lot, because if you put the lift station on our property, it's going to take away some. Needing a bar. And it's gonna have a lift station next to somebody's house. If you put it way down here next to the woods, he'll have gravity access to it, so he won't have to have a separate grinder pump. You have to build a lift station no matter what. You have to pump your stuff back to the system across from the point that's at the end. So since you're building a lift station anyway, it might make sense. And the engineer help us make a recommendation to you guys. I'm not saying sure that permanent deal. But getting a water line down to his site, getting a line down to his site and unfortunately back up is something that the county should participate in, but it's all up to negotiate. So we're putting together a term sheet to see what happens. You can bet, but I don't know. You have a time frame? We're moving now. We want the term sheet and the agreement to be in place, hopefully in the next, well, might have something that everybody can look at hopefully in the next 30 days. We are actively designing the retention ponds today in all our properties that we have access to. We know we're gonna need to put the track and we know how much retention we need, for the ultimate site. I don't know if you can see underneath the aerial photography, but the, air, underneath the, screen there is blue there. The property owner had his property tour, dug a big hole there. So we're a little ahead of the game. Our retention is already done. So we're gonna take advantage of that as we move forward. But there's gonna be some storm sewer pipes and some outlet pipes, and we have to bring, you know, we're working on how his property is gonna drain if we do this deal, but, I'm trying to find the downside of this, and I think the civic center is good deal for the county. I think it's good for the county. I think Charlie needs water and sewer. 139 is right next door. That's good for him. I think you guys need more attention. And if we put the attention on all our property, we currently have, it's just gonna take away some of the, assessed value we're gonna be able to create on your land. So I think sharing the attention to the west benefits, the mud in that way. But I'm find out. I've done a lot of deals, but if everybody doesn't come out of winter, you know, we didn't do a good deal. And I think this is one of those, but there's a lot of paperwork here.
Yeah.
I got, it's a tri-party agreement, it's gonna be a while before we get to the point.
Well, that's where I think I'm just in generalities, when we think about like throwing a dart at the timeline here,
Yeah.
we're talking 2 years out, what are we thinking?
We got a slide, but is there another slide behind
The
it?
general timeline as you see it today, and I know it's broad stroke.
Yeah, well, let's, I think, is there another slide after this? There we go, there it is. So, so we're designing the Tennessee ponds right now, okay? And, we'd like to see if we can get construction begin sometime in the second quarter of next year. That's enough time for us to design the infrastructure, but this tri-party agreement, in this detention pond squared away, and where our location is going, those are things we need to work on in the next 30 or 45 days. I think we're, the big thing is, we need to write a big check to you guys, so you can buy the capacity that SJ already has available to us. And so that land plan I mentioned to you at the very outset, but this land plan is in progress. I need to know, somebody in my office needs to decide what our profit mix is gonna be and how many single family, we're gonna have. I mean, right now, I know that they already has enough for whatever we wanna do. We had that entire northwest corner was filled with apartments. They have to slack capacity for us to purchase one. But there's no reason for us to purchase a whole lot more than it's ever gonna be. So I'm trying to get a little finer line on that, on what that capacity might be, so we don't end up overpaying. That's the story. Next slide, I think it's the question on this. That it? All right. Yeah, well, it really is gonna be continuing. If, the work proceeds, if the negotiations continue with the closure, and that's gonna be a great catalyst for that area. Yeah, thank you. That's gonna be a great catalyst for getting development started over there. And I apologize for spilling the coffee. All right, thank y'all very much. That's it for today.
Thank you.
Can you send, everyone, a copy of that? Or,
I can send it, yeah.
Sure.
Marie has it, and she has it.
Awesome.
Great.
Got you.
Send it to you.
I don't know how far you guys, I mean, this is a public meeting, and everybody can look at it now, but here's a public meeting, so it's available to everybody, but I'm not, we're not broadcasting it yet, because as soon as it gets out, the field, people think that's exactly what you're gonna build. That garden you said you were gonna put there, they're gonna expect us to build that garden. I don't know if we're gonna build that garden or not, that doesn't come across, for people to live in those things, so just, I'd be, I use discretion is how you.
Yeah, this is not.
Want to slap some preliminary subject to change?
There is, those are all,
Yeah.
those have that.
It's really more for us, because, you know, the mythical, why are we annexing this, right, and we understand what MUD 39 is doing. You know, just having now seeing some vision of what that actually is going to be, is very helpful for us to talk track that with them.
We're good.
That might have a question.
Hey, Chris, I tell you what, this defined geographic area. I think it's one of the best things. This area has to support itself, period, in a conversation. Whatever taxes are placed on this area are gonna be borne by the residents of that area, those commercial areas. And they're also paying your taxes to help you pay off the balance of your $10 million of debt. It's a great way for us to continue to be, effective tools for making things happen in communities like ours. That's it.
Brian, we need to, act on 15. Yeah. Right, so, we're kind of receiving as well. On each coming for it.
All right, I'm gonna kick it over to John. I don't have any too much.
Everybody get one of these?
She had one. We'll dog you that.
All right, good afternoon. Highlight a couple things in your report here. You can see the outreach calendar there on the first page. Starting to line up events for the fall. Continue to update this. You can also find this calendar on the drive as well. We encourage directors to join us at any and all these. It's a great way to learn about your residents. On page 2, I did want
John?
Yeah.
I have a question, and it's really just from, some neighbors in the neighborhood. I saw the 50th anniversary celebration. I think at like 40, there was some kind of scavenger hunt. And people just loved that. I know this is like an oddball request, but they're just wondering if there's something like that at the 50th celebration, because apparently I wasn't here, but 40th, you could do this big scavenger hunt, learn all about the woodlands and the wonderful things happening. I guess you got like a mug or a cup. So again, you're going to add more to your plate, but I heard this from multiple people who grew up in the woodlands and been here for a couple decades. Were like, that was amazing. I enjoyed doing that. When my kids were little, so.
but we're not the coordinators of the event.
No.
You know, I'm not apprised of all the different elements, but I've got a lot lined up.
I can add to it though. I sat through a presentation actually this week from the township of Howard Hughes to talk about this. What the plan is from now until October when the big day comes. There's a bunch of different activities that have been planned. And I believe that you can find them on Visit the Woodlands, I think is what it was. Nick and Kim went through it at George's Coffee.
Yeah, I need to have a speech, but it was.
Yeah.
A lot of activities.
There's some fun things.
Event. You guys are gonna be invited to, our guests as well, all of my work.
Yeah, I'm not remembering if the word scavenger hunt was used. I just can't remember that particular detail, but there was a number of different activities lined up over the next couple months leading up to October. October is big concert, fireworks, really big festival on that day, but
Can tell you we'll have some great outreach and a cool kids activity if you're looking forward.
that's right.
Thanks. All right, page 2, brought forward some social media stats for you this round. One note on social media. So we are looking to add additional platforms. I'm looking at LinkedIn and Instagram sooner than later. Right now, that Nextdoor has been a really good tool for us. We started that about 6-8 months ago, and we've got 37,500 households that are tapped into our feed, and we post twice a week. Average about 2,000 engagements of each of those posts. That's the number of folks that are actually reading and clicking on it. So that's been a nice tool for us. Another new tool that we just brought on is becoming a major sponsor of high school athletic broadcasts. Woodlands Online. So they broadcast to all of the Woodlands High School and college sports, football, baseball, basketball, softball games. Over 100,000 viewers a year tune into that. Maybe more come back for reporting. So embedded within each of those broadcasts, we'll have commercials, readers, prominent advertising. We'll have advertising throughout the larger website, which is as well. So that's an exciting opportunity for us. That's a really good swap opportunity for us to connect with families that are engaged in the community, cuts across wide demographics. So that should be a a nice tool for us. And then, Eric was gonna note a couple things about Holloway Infrastructure Communications.
Yeah, so through the PEC, you've heard a little bit about us working with the PR firm to start building a campaign. They built a draft website that, they'll come, next month and present to the MUD to see before it goes live. So it's basically a portal or an area where the community can go to learn about infrastructure renewal or infrastructure projects that are going on or may go on in the future. So you'll see that next month. Also, as a part of that process, as we build the campaign to educate the community about aging infrastructure, we will be developing through the firm a community work group. And they've identified some criteria to build up that group itself, like what's it going to be made of? Is it MUD directors? Is it what community members? What is it? So they've kind of come up with a summary of what that is. So each MUD will have the opportunity to appoint or name a member of the working group. Those associations will also have a member, some community members as well. Township, Howard Hughes, Estuary will have a member. We'll have a member. So we'll be able to participate in that group. That group will be intended to collaborate on what you're hearing in the community. What does the community need, more information on? That type of thing. It'll help probably guide some of the talking points in the communication that continues to go on over the next year or so. It's probably no more than a meeting a month as far as time commitment. May not meet every month, but may. Probably an hour or so meeting once a month would be my guess at the most. So as far as the time commitment. So be thinking about if there's anyone that's really passionate, wants to get involved in this endeavor, let us know and we all can duke it out if several of you want it. But next month I'd like to come back and ask for a name so we can get that group kind of built up and get rolling.
Okay.
Wanted to just point out that the mowing, the August mowing is beginning and typically Champions begins in 39, so they're up to 39 now. And then they'll work their way through the woodlands after they get done 39 this week. Hopefully this week will be done. Doesn't look like there's been any rain. And then you'll see through AWD the flyer for the Districts 101. Wanted to point that out as well. It's some pretty good information, especially for new directors that you might look into. I think the event's coming up soon, so you can register for that if you're interested. Let us know, and Shelley can help us register for that as well if you have any interest. And I think that's all I have.
I think there's a meeting in January for one in Austin. I assume we can do the same thing for there.
Absolutely. So if you don't know, we hadn't really talked about it much. When y'all started, the summer conference was just about to start, and so it was kind of crammed in there. But AWD, Association of Water Board Directors, is a organization that really works to help water board directors sort through all the various things you need to sort through, whether it's legislative or tips and tools on how to do productive meetings or new legislation coming, or there's even consultants that actually work on future legislation, and then there's consultants at each of these conferences that will do seminars on different topics, either successes and things they've done in different areas, or new legislation coming, or here's how we handled this problem. Just different things like that that are usually pretty good throughout the year. They have 2 conferences a year, a short one. It's about a day and a half about a day and a half on a Friday, half a Saturday in January. It's called the Midwinter Conference. And then their big conference is usually in June. And that starts Thursday evening, goes Friday and Saturday, half Saturday. And then in April and October, they'll have a breakfast and dinner that is more of a single seminar, one topic, about an hour and a half type of seminar. And then lastly, they have the Districts 101 that's usually in the summertime for new directors. So those are the different offerings they have. We'll keep on the lookout and have reminders for y'all throughout the year to remind you all to get, signed up if you're interested. Usually usually the breakfast and dinner are usually in Houston somewhere, usually on the west side of town, and then the conferences rotate. Could be Dallas, could be Austin, San Antonio, just depends, so it moves around.
No action.
All right, so 15, received the Woodlands Water Trustees report. And so last week's trustee meeting, really three primary points of discussion at the meeting that they're talking about. Obviously, the first one is we went into an in-depth analysis and looked at the budget. Today we looked at 39, but at the trustee meeting, we looked at the overall budget. And I think that there was everything from a trustee standpoint, from my perspective, was looking very, very good. It's up for, I guess, vote at the next meeting. Nothing, I don't think there was anything that was exceptional. Eric gave a good explanation of some of the exceptional items where there were discrepancies. But nothing major to note on that. And then there were two big discussions that I'd like to talk about just briefly a little bit. One is there is a on the agenda item is to discuss this One Water committee that they're looking to fund. If I understand right, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is to fund a full-time position for it, but to okay, so, but I mean, One Water was a committee that was formed, what, 2 years ago?
No, there was
Oh,
yeah, there was, after the Texas State Memorial Day floods, there was a kind of a, if you will, uproar or a lot of energy in the community about flooding. And so there was a group that was formed back then through the township, I believe, and some other individuals called One Water. That the intention was to look at community flooding and as on a regional basis, not recognizing that it wasn't just a Woodlands thing, but it's a multi-county thing. And that group met, I think, for several years, and not a whole lot was done out of it. There is a large analysis that's currently being done that did probably come out of that. There's the Spring Creek drainage analysis, which is a multi-county project that spans Waller, Montgomery, Harris counties, and that's still in analysis. Back in, I think it was 2021, 22, that group, it got so big, there were so many people involved that I think it lost its focus, basically, and it's died off. There was interest end of last year, this year, with some directors and the township to possibly reignite that discussion. And the overall goal of the group would be to work as a body to try to get all of the regional players together to solve issues. And one of the things that I was real passionate about as they asked me to kind of help get it rolling was, I don't want it to become whatever it was before. I wasn't involved in it before, but from what I've heard, it was just not very focused. So one of the things that we talked about as we started looking at forming the group was, what is it going to look at? What are the things that we would be focused on? Because drainage is one thing, and that's what it was focused on before, but that's not what I wanted to really focus on this time. So we've kind of built a mission statement, if you will, that really is to look at regional water source, which is drinking water. We have an issue in the county right now where the wells are dropping, and water source has been a hot topic over the last few years. There's been lawsuits. You've heard all the Conroe stuff. I mean, all of that is tied to water source in the county, and that's still not resolved. You have subsidence. That's another issue that people are passionate about. And then some would argue that subsidence then does affect drainage to a certain degree. And so that's kind of pulls it from drinking water, subsidence, and then drainage. It's kind of not just a flooding thing is what everybody thought the old one was. So that's kind of started up. There's been a couple meetings with some key stakeholders, the township, a couple mud directors that were more interested in it than others, and where we just started talking and saying, okay, what is the goals? What are the goals going to be? Are there any projects that can be targeted? And here more recently, there was a project that's been in modeling for the last couple of years. It's called the Bear Panther Drainage Project, which really serves the research forest area. And there's some funds involved with the stakeholders. You are not involved in that at all. And so that group had a little meeting this week to talk about where do we go from here, because it's been modeled and we're trying to figure out how to get the project done. What was talked about in the trustee meeting was the idea that, and I indicated to the group, I said, I'm not sure that I have the time to be the leader of this. Just because it's in order to gather, multi-jurisdictional people and try to just manage this whole process is a lot of work. And so what that line item was to talk about the idea of maybe finding someone on a part-time basis, not a full-time position, not possibly even a WWA employee, but to talk about finding someone that might have that could be hired to help more facilitate that group to look at all these regional issues, bringing all the stakeholders together depending on what those issues were.
So they're
So that
talking
was the
about,
discussion.
they're talking about a position, but the difference in what you're saying, from what my understanding is, so, they're looking at it as a part-time, not a full-time.
Almost like a consultant or something.
But it would be a funded position that we would have to approve funding for.
But hired by who? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, by the muds, by the muds. I think that's, and it never got to the discussion of money because the discussion at the trustee meeting went all over the place and it really didn't even get to the point of talking about it. It would be.
Yeah, I'm confused. I'm just saying, I mean, like, it sounds like a big multi-jurisdictional thing. Like, to bring people together, get the right people in the room, to have informed understandings of what's going on. But why do you have to pay for?
Well,
I'm not saying no, I'm just curious about the mechanism
Yeah.
of what it is we're looking.
There's no, in all those issues, whether it's water or subsidence or drainage, there's not one entity that has power over all of those things. And so the idea of One Water ultimately was to try to create a core that would look at these and bring these folks together when there's a specific problem that needs to be
It sounds
tackled.
like the Homeland Security, but Homeland Water. The thing, it's.
There was interest among some muds and the township to help spur that along, because if no one does it, nothing will get done. But that was the concern.
And the concern that I had, and that I mentioned in the meeting, is that our county commissioners and our county court, that they have a budget of, I believe, somewhere around $70 million in flood mitigation. And, I want to see that if this committee goes forward, and if we bring it, that the county commissioners are part of it, because they have a large stake in a large investment in flood mitigation in Montgomery County.
Yeah, and they would be. They were before and they would be.
Yeah.
We have a switchover, obviously, coming up in the commissioner, your commissioner, well, not your commissioner. Here's things saying, but in the rest of the Woodlands commissioner, there's a change. So that commissioner and your commissioner probably could be brought into a conversation soon.
Yes, so more conversations to be had. Okay.
Yeah, there was with the project at hand, I said, well, what better way? Let's start by tackling this specific project. We brought in a state and federal legislator into the room to hear about the project, to see if there was any state or federal funding. With Toth and Crenshaw were invited and attended. Crenshaw staff and just to familiarize themselves with the Bear Panther project. See if there was addition. That was the first step. That was just the first project. There's much bigger topics and tasks that group could tackle with regional water source and the other things.
The last issue from the trustee was votes. There was a vote, for the, to make a make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees on selecting an engineering consulting firm to obtain, recommendations for cost estimates on the water treatment plant. So in summary, I mean, you're looking to, bring in a secondary consulting firm to look at the repair in place, for the water treatment and make recommendations on it. And the board of trustees voted on it and voted it down 6-4. That's all I have.
Okay. Sir, thank you for being active in the meeting.
Excuse me, I do have a question. So what does that mean that they voted it down? Now what? Is that what to you want?
Well,
So
the existing report, I'm sorry, the existing, directive that the trustees gave to the river authority continues to move forward to do that. But having consultants do the 4 different scenarios.
Currently engaged.
Correct. These 4 different scenarios, one of which is the repair in place. What won't happen is another consultant, are definitely not willing to offer to separately evaluate one of those 4 options with the other.
Oh, okay.
So the 4 option analysis is.
Do need 16, we do need to go. And we don't have a whole lot of time, but.
Yeah, that's real quick. All right, 16, recess to closed session to consult the district attorney pursuant to section 551.71 until the for original discussion personnel section 551.74. Texas government.
It's,